All right, so what is really going on with Zuckerberg and his supposed renewed commitment to free speech? So, Mark Zuckerberg has been going through a bit of a rebrand, apparently. First, it looked like it was more of a visual hardware upgrade, and now it's more of a software update. Zuckerberg has declared a return to his supposed initial values of providing a platform for free speech, most recently on his interview with Joe Rogan. To me, it seemed obvious that he might just be begging for forgiveness and redemption after the censorship on his platform may have directly contributed to Trump's loss in 2020, especially now that Trump is back in power, has Elon Musk, Zuckerberg's competitor, on his side, and since Trump is probably the type of guy to hold a grudge. There's somebody named Stephen Smith who lays this out really nicely, this idea that it is just an act of self-preservation, and I'll drop the link to it in the description. But I think there's more going on than just this. I think that all of this might just be a temporary readjustment because of the increased public awareness of censorship, the existence of censorship, and because of a degradation in the illusion of free speech, which is an important illusion not only to give the people in America an impression of freedom, but to claim moral high ground from which they can lecture other countries on. There has never really been free speech in America, but fewer controls were needed if enough people believed what the government wanted them to believe, and if their system of manipulation was working effectively. Making it socially unacceptable to step too far out of line, canceling the occasional person who got caught trying to do that, or incarcerating and making an example out of people who exposed a few too many inconvenient truths was a more heavy-handed approach, sometimes required, but for the most part, the U.S. government was still pretty good at keeping people ignorant with a softer touch. But as these systems became less effective, more controls and overt censorship was introduced. Much of the justification for this relied on creating a scapegoat. Russia was accused of influencing American voters, and now apparently China is manipulating its youth via TikTok. However, this readjustment in censorship was implemented too abruptly. It wasn't gradual enough, and it became too conspicuous. So here we are. Now, the government requires a spectacle to create the illusion of returning to free speech. And I'd imagine that even those in power behind the Democratic Party, who are actually in reality aren't all that different from the people behind the Republican Party, understand that this is a necessary adjustment in order to preserve the illusion of free speech, even if on the surface the Democrats seem to be on the losing end of this shift. So the floodgates may appear to be open for now, but a few things will happen to slowly throttle control back in. The systems used to manipulate the public into thinking the right things will need to become more sophisticated. Subliminal messaging, Department of Defense approved Hollywood scripts, and centralized mainstream media control won't be sufficient anymore. But when fewer people are paying attention, censorship will subtly be reintroduced. Elon Musk might actually be jumping the gun on this one too early with his announcement to adjust feeds to boost positive content and thereby deboosting so-called negative content. But I think it'll take a lot more time for this to actually play out. Finally, more effort will be needed for threat inflation and blaming foreign powers for the need to increase censorship. And the irony with this strategy is that it relies on Americans believing that foreign powers might be manipulating them in the same way American tools, initiatives, and platforms have undeniably manipulated foreign populations, or more evident now than ever, even their own populations. But the more you understand how the game is played, the harder it's going to be for them to change the rules on you. So what are you supposed to do? What are you supposed to do with this information? I don't know really, but at bare minimum, stay vigilant, pay attention to what's happening around you, and use this temporary opening up to learn more about how the world really works and to tell others all about it while you still can. See you next time. Peace.